Welcome to the Strength for Life podcast, where smart strength training meets real life. We're Dr. Matt and Nicole Klingberg, founders of Village Fitness and Physical Therapy. Here, you'll learn what really works in the gym, at home, and for life. So, Nicole and I grew up in an era and a time where antibacterial soap reigned supreme, antibiotics were very common, and you wanted to stamp out any and all bacteria from your life. And so when we first heard about unpasteurized dairy products 10 years ago, we thought it was pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, we were very skeptical. We also grew up in an era of no fat or like non-fat, low fat. And so that was like our only exposure to dairy products was like, it has to be low fat, pasteurized, homogenized, like all those things. Otherwise, it's really bad for you. And so like that's just the era that we grew up in.
And that was until we met Farmer Mark.
Yeah.
who is here. Did you pronounce your last name McAfee?
McAfee.
Yeah.
We have Mark McAfee with us today. He is the founder and owner of Raw Farms, which is the largest raw dairy producer in the world today. And he's going to talk about his story. He's going to talk about the safety and efficacy of unpasteurized dairy products and also answer questions that many of our clients have had about raw dairy. So Mark, first off, thank you so much for being here today with us.
It's my pleasure. And we always say, you don't sell raw milk, you teach it. Yeah. Today we're going to teach raw milk.
Yeah.
And I want to preface something right up front. This is very, very deep science. It's just not anti-science. Yeah. I've been some people are going, oh, they're all anti-science. No, this is seriously deep science. And so we're going to talk about some of these really cool things that Mother Nature's created for us.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you grew up in California.
Yeah, I grew up near the family farms, about 20 miles southwest of Fresno. I was born and raised. I was actually born in LA, but spent only 2 days here and went back to the farm. But raised in Raisin City of all little places near Kerman, California.
Okay. And what kind of farm did you grow up on?
We had a dairy for a while. For a few years when I was a teenager. We had 2 dairies, one when I was younger and one when I was older. And we did row crops, cotton, alfalfa, various different row crops, farming.
And did you always know, I want to have my own farm one day? No.
I did not know what I wanted to do. And remember, if you grew up on a farm, you kind of have this interesting observation of your parents. What are they going through? What are they experiencing? And for most farm kids, it's pretty tough because it's a roller coaster. It's a commodity market roller coaster. Things are good, things are bad. Subsidies come, subsidies go. Exports come, they go. Up, down, feast and famine. Extremely conservative, always worried about money. And so that was kind of some of it. So my dad was not a farmer his entire life. He did a lot of activism. He did other things. He was a land leveler. He did water well drilling. So farming was part of his life. And I grew up in the shadow of multiple things that he did. But farming was part of it, and dairy was part of it too.
So what was the thing that made you say, I want to do this myself? Like how did you go from, living with your parents where that was part of your life to I'm opening up my own farm?
Well, let's pause. I want to hear it because you became a paramedic first, right?
Let me give you
just the whole story.
Yeah, the whole story. Yeah, I want to hear it all.
I'll tell you some of the interesting tonight over dinner. But the high points were I excelled in track. I loved 440 and high hurdles and everything at track. I was a track guy. I loved music, trombone. I was all-state honor band 3-4 years in a row in high school. My mom was big into Balkan dance, so a lot of cultural stuff. My mom was a very accomplished pianist and played violin, and so there was a lot of culture and art in my family. A lot of world travel. I spent time in Greece, spent time on a kibbutz in Israel back in the 60s, and when I was 8 years old. Spent time, I was nominated, selected, and I represented the United States of America in old Soviet Union in 1975. Wow. When Apollo and Soyuz were joining together, I was with 1,200 students in the Crimea at Artec, spreading peace and love between students around the world that were there. So a lot of international stuff I've been blessed to be involved. My dad was actually a very active anti-war activist in the 1960s. So I had a lot of the what's really the truth kind of thing going on in terms of what we're told versus what. So kind of independent minded, but a lot of influences internationally as well as domestic conflict and farming. So kind of a dynamic music,
very dynamic,
dancing, track. My first job out of high school was I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really didn't. I was like, the world's my oyster. What do I do? Right.
Yeah.
So here I am. I went up to a mine in the mountains and way up in the middle of Millrets. Well, it was a strawberry mine. And I was a welder in high school. I learned how to weld and fixed everything on the farm that broke. And one day a guy was hit in the head with a timber, and they called the paramedic and nurse in on a helicopter. The helicopter came in from Fresno and landed. And I watched this go down. I was like, the paramedic's coming out with this orange jumpsuit, this awesome nurse, and this pilot. Like, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want. That is so cool. So at 19 years old, that's what my frontal cortex told me I should do. Not well thought or considered, but nonetheless, it's what I wanted to do. So I actually left that, went and got my pre-med. I had 3 years of pre-med, anatomy, physiology, organic chemistry, all that stuff you do for pre-med. And I entered paramedic, EMT 2 school, EMT paramedic school, and I graduated valedictorian in my class. I loved it. I ate it up. It was great. And I was hired by the EMS agency and started working paramedic shifts. And I did that for 16 years, but I also did recruiting. I was a pilot for a little while. I started flying when I was 16 years old. So
you
my
did.
dad
So
was
you've been doing that for a long time.
I've been flying since I was 16.
Okay,
yeah.
very cool.
That's 49 years. Oh, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
Never had an accident. Pretty cool. Anyway, so really, this was kind of an interesting thing that paramedic medicine really seemed to hit my heart right. So I did everything you can imagine. ACLS instructor trainer, taught paramedic medicine for the health department for many years. Ran 15,000 paramedic calls.
Wow.
Didn't get a lot of sleep. It's exhausting because a lot of stuff's at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Recruited paramedics. I was an HR director. I was a marketing director. I was operations manager for a while. I was on the STAR team, did swift water rescue and high angle stuff. And so a lot of really cool stuff. That whole chapter came to a close in 1996. My grandparents had passed away, and I said, you know what? I don't want to spend the rest of my life exhausted like this. I've done my experience. Let's move on. My grandparents left 1,000 acres of ground that they had bought near Fresno, the family properties. But my brothers didn't want to farm. They worked for Steve Jobs at Apple, and my brother was doing stuff. And it's like, Mark, you're it. So I was like, you know what? I need to create a business plan which is differentiated. It's not going to be on that commodity market roller coaster that everybody's on in the commodity, which is feast or famine and go bankrupt. It's just bad. There's an old joke. How do you make a little bit of money in farming? Start out with a lot of money. It's a joke, but it's so true. Yeah, it's like, that wasn't going to be me. So we started organic alfalfa production, selling it to organic dairies. Well, connected to the dairies is like, I grew up in a dairy. Why don't I have my own dairy? That breeds the value, and then I'll get the money from that. And so vertical integration. And so we did. We had a contract with Organic Valley for a period of time. This was 1999. But my brother was working for Apple Computer, Adam. He was working right down the hallway from Steve Jobs. Wow. Which is really interesting. He said, let's put up a website and talk about what you're doing. This is really cool. So we put up a website, Cows on Pasture and all this stuff.
And you were doing pasteurized milk at the time, right?
We weren't doing any pasteurization. Okay, we were selling the milk to be pasteurized to Organic Valley. They'd pick it up and go away. And I didn't know who my customers were.
Okay.
So we were selling to a processor versus people,
mm-hmm.
which we do now. Well, a guy by the name of James Stewart, I give him a lot of credit, had a little place called The Garage in Los Angeles and Venice Beach. He called me up and says, you don't know this, but Altadena closed their doors in May of 1999. No more raw milk in LA. We're starving down here. You're the closest organic dairy to LA. Bring your milk down here. I didn't have a permit. I didn't have labels. I didn't have a processing plant. So I went out to the bulk tank and just got the milk in the bottle, put the cap on it, no label. Here you go, in ice chests, and drove down to LA with my wife in a Suburban. We drive into the back alley of Venice Beach, The Garage. And as we pull in, there's uncounted numbers of people. I mean, 50, 200, I don't know. The place was just packed with people. I didn't count. It was just a massive number of people. And as we pulled in, we couldn't get out of the car because there was too many people. They opened up the back of the Suburban, started grabbing milk and throwing $10 and $20 bills in the car, just as fast as they could, grabbing the milk. So have hundreds of these, people just crowding this milk, going crazy, celebrating the arrival of milk. So I got out of the car and I was like, wow, this is amazing. James goes, you got to come back tomorrow. This is nuts. We need your milk. I was like, whoa, thousands of dollars a day. This is cool. So it's like that message hit me hard. And here I'm a retired paramedic. My wife's a nurse. And this woman walks up to us and says, I'm so sad you don't have any more milk and I need to have the milk for my child. That stirred some pretty deep emotion in both of us going, We need to serve humanity here. This is what this is all about. This is what we want to do. So she went to some gal who'd hoarded 5 gallons, and she grabbed some back and gave to this woman for free, and gave the gal her money back and said, tell me your story. And the woman talked about her child who had seizures, and that the raw fats really helped her brain. And I didn't know the pathophysiology, what she was talking about, but that was her story, and she had to have it, and she was overjoyed to have it. And other people came up with their stories of lactose intolerance and bone density and all the things in the gut microbiome we understand well now that I didn't have a clue about then. Told me their stories, and I said, we'll be back. So we left, and I told my wife, I said, what in the hell just happened? This is a seminal incident in my life. And people are crying and money flying and people hugging and kissing, like, whoa. So that was the beginning of my path into raw milk. And then from there, it was just one step after another. We bought a reefer van, a big old truck reefer van. We parked it on the farm, and instead of shipping the milk off, we brought it in and bottled the milk at one end, put a wall in the middle, and the other end was the cold chiller. And James Stewart brought his truck up from LA, picked up the milk, and went to all the stores in LA. And we had like 75, 80 stores the first month, 2 months. Everybody wanted the raw milk. Altadena not having the raw milk. So we filled the gap that Altadena left open, but I think we did it better than Altadena because we were really intuitive to the consumer. We were very connected to people, and we started really learning. We made a couple mistakes. A couple kids got sick early on. It's like, whoa, what happened? That's wrong, And we started learning. Nobody died, but it was like insurance policies. So we learned a lot early on. And every time we had a mistake or a problem, we picked ourselves up and said, what can we learn and get better? How can we get better?
Yeah.
It's tears. It wasn't easy,
Yeah.
but you got better. Well, after 26 years, we have a Thermo Fisher PCR lab on farm with 3 lab people every day. We enrich samples. We test the samples genomically to 50 logs of sensitivity. That's a number with 50 zeros. I don't know that they've created a name for 50 zeros yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quadrazillion, bazillion Google or something. I don't know. It's a big number. So extremely sensitive testing of all of our milk every day before the milk ever leaves the farm. Before, we used to use an off-farm lab and pay a fortune for somebody, wait 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, that milk would escape into the marketplace before we knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, now it can't. So we've learned. It's just tenacious, lifelong learning because we're really dedicated to humanity and our consumers. And we want good news, not any bad news. Yeah. The good thing about this is we've shared this technology with other farmers so in other places in Canada, all over the United States, that actually use not all of what we do, but most all of what we do to share with their communities with the Raw Milk Institute, which is a nonprofit organization. So we've done a lot of work to not only do well for us, but also do well for others.
Yeah.
That's the quick story, but there's lots of nuances.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is the process of like when someone gets your milk at, say, Sprouts?
Sure.
What happens for like how long ago did you milk the cow?
Sure.
What happens between you milking the cow to them getting in the store?
Grass to glass, pastures, sunshine, very, very important. Vitamin D comes naturally in the cows in sunshine. Super intense surveillance of our cows for their health condition. Every one of our cows has something called a smack tech in it. Okay. And smack tech is an electronic transmitter that they actually swallow, and it sits in their gut for their life.
Oh, wow.
And it transponds. It gives you data every 10 minutes about their condition, their temperature, all kinds of stuff. And it tells you whether they've drank water, whether they have a fever. And that all tells you if they're an estrus or not, whether they need to be bred or not, whether they're sick and out by themselves in terms of they're not drinking water. So it gives us a tremendous amount of data. So monitoring the health condition of the cow. Yeah. And then we bring the cow into the milk barn where she's really cleaned well. There's a shower, there's washing, there's cleaning. And then they go into the milk barn where super clean, dry udders, and you put the machine on. And by the way, we invite people to tour to see this. The milk comes out of the cow. We say super quick, super clean, super quick, super cold. Super clean, super quick, super cold. So the milk comes out of the cow at 99 degrees, body temperature of mammals, and within 2 minutes at 36 degrees.
Wow.
So rapid chilling. So any bacteria that's there, the beneficial diversity of bacteria, the good bioactives that are there are alive and well, but they don't grow to high levels because that would make yogurt.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how we get that 20 days of shelf life, is to cleanly milk, rapidly chill, and then we hold it in a silo tank for 24 hours. And that's where the sample goes to our lab, and we see what's exactly in that milk. Mm-hmm. If it's got a problem, it's immediately diverted for some other purpose. Pasteurization, or make cheese. Cheese is aged 60 days with salt. It's a different risk profile. Yeah. So we have a whole set of protocols around that. And then it's picked up with our truck, taken to our creamery in Fowler, made into butter, cream, cheese, milk, and kefir, and sold across California, except for cheese, which can be sold across the United States. And we also have pet food products, which are made to human consumption standards, but labeled for pet food consumption that are approved by the FDA to be sold across the United States. So we have really grown, adapted, and been very resilient to lots of different things as this challenge of pioneering. Because remember what a pioneer is? Out front and no protection, getting shot at. That's what a pioneer is. Yeah. And that's what we are. We're pioneers, we're leading, and we're helping others to create a community that can serve humanity with us.
Speaking of getting shot at, when what were some of the challenges? Like, what have been some of the biggest challenges you guys have faced as a business over the last, you said 26 years?
26 years. Well, one of the things we always did, I always made sure we did, was we never produced a product that people didn't want already. So they'd have to scream and yell for it, and then we do it. So if people wanted butter, we better hear a large sound of people wanting butter before we make it. So we never made anything nobody wanted. We always were consumer responsive. It was really important. So we never put more cows in our herd until we had a place for the milk. We're always growing with demand versus just growing and then hoping for demand. No, we always grew with demand. I have made it a personal value of my own not to respond to negativism. I respond to two things: food safety and consumers. That's it. Yeah. You focus on consumers and safety. If you don't have a safety problem, you have very happy consumers. You have a safety problem, you got pissed off consumers. Yeah. So when you take care of those things, I recognized early on that if I did that repeatedly, I would not be distracted with lawsuits or FDA or anybody picking on me. Yeah. I would settle with them, negotiate whatever, and keep on going to work out consumers and safety, consumers and safety, consumers and safety. And that's really paid off. Because so many people say, that's not right, sue them. And spend all your money and all your time in court suing somebody, which you may or may not win, but it's going to take you 10 years and lose all your money. So we haven't been distracted by lawsuits or litigation or the problems people bring to us. We say, nope, I'm focusing on two things: consumer safety and food safety and consumers. And by keeping those priorities right, I've recognized that you wake up one day and it's like, we won. Because you built a big ass market, huge market that loves you. Yeah. I'll tell you a cute little story that just really puts the needle on the top of the haystack here. We're pulling out of a weigh station which CHP runs in California. Yeah. Okay. And this officer runs up behind the truck, and the truck's getting out and delivering. Trip, stop. And the officer comes up and says, stop, we want raw milk. And our driver says, well, we only sell in stores. We really don't have any way to do a transaction right now. He goes, don't matter. We'll set up a store here at the weigh station. Wow. So the driver went back and set up a store and actually took a Visa card, and we delivered to a weigh station at CHP. That's awesome. That's the kind of stuff that happens when you win. Yeah. Because you've literally got judges and nurses and doctors and CHP officers and teachers and kids and students and athletes, you guys. That are understanding the value of the gut microbiome and the immune system of raw milk when it's done properly. Yeah. And so you wake up and go, we won. You didn't pick a fight by winning. You picked a piece, and you worked your butt off to make sure you've really innovated on food safety and you're taking care of customers. Yeah. So that's kind of, what are my big challenges? Gosh, I've got a million of them, but I've ignored them because I didn't want to eat my life. Yeah. I mean, you've ignored them, but politics, FDA, all these people picking on us, it's like, ignore them.
Yeah, but you're focused on obviously the two most important things, which is what do the people want and how do I keep them safe?
Exactly. And also a lot of work in education. Yeah. Because why would somebody buy raw milk when everybody says it's so dangerous? And they don't understand that this is a key point, everybody. This is really key. There are two standards for milk in America: raw milk for pasteurization, and that's the only standard that the FDA has, the only one. They don't have raw milk for human consumption. The state of California has standards for human consumption. Now, if you think of this, human consumption and pasteurization completely separate, completely different. On the pasteurization side, as many pathogens in there as you want. Don't care because they don't measure because it's going to get cooked. To quote Dr. Bruce German at UC Davis, he's the International Milk Genomics.
That's where we went.
Yeah.
Both of us went
well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of the professor emeritus now, but he's a professor there. He said, pasteurization is an 18th century solution to an 18th century problem. We can do a whole lot better. Clean water, testing, knowing, understanding cow health, all those things we understand. The FDA does not acknowledge it. They want the pasteurized milk community, that's the only thing they've got. They protect it. That's their standards. So be it. I agree. That milk would make you sick, especially if you have a bit of a weakened immune system. I totally agree. There's no conflict there. You would not want to drink that raw.
Yeah.
It'd be a risky business.
Well, it comes from the sad cows, as my children call them. Anytime we drive up to Northern California, because that's where we're from, that we see, the massive, dairy farms, and they're like the sad cows because they're like living in their own poop and just huge lots of thousands.
What is the difference between a sad cow
and
making
a happy
milk
cow
for pasteurization and a cow?
I was the vice
raw
president
farms?
of the California Dairy Campaign, and I was the only raw guy in the room. I have tremendous empathy for these other guys that are struggling.
Yeah.
They're just having a hell of a time because milk prices have just plummeted in the last year and a half. Some of those guys really work hard to do the best they can to have a happy cow.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. They got a happy cow. They're not getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid by like everybody that's all get dumped in the same milk tank together.
Yeah.
So if you clean your udders really, really well and you have happy cows and pasture, you're actually a fool.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting paid to do that extra work. Totally. As a result, the milk is all being commingled together. It got to get cooked because your neighbors doesn't care. He's doing everything he can to just get by. Mm-hmm. And the standards allow it. But for human consumption, it's one dairy taking full responsibility with insurance policies. You have to meet and exceed pasteurized milk standards without pasteurizing. Yeah. Less than 10 coliforms versus uncounted numbers of coliforms. 0 pathogens versus uncounted numbers. Mm-hmm. Incredibly different. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that today a little bit more in our PowerPoint, but it's worlds apart. Very uncomfortable for the pasteurized community to talk or think about this because it's nearly impossible to do because they don't have a relationship with people. They've got a relationship with a processor. Mm. And the processor says, you deviate 1 gallon of milk and you're out of here. Yeah. They'll cut you off.
Meaning volume.
If you take any of your milk and you raw milk for human consumption versus the contract you have for us, you're out of here. Mm. And it would take a long time for them to develop a base of people understand what we do over 26 years. Mm. So it's literally impossible to do what we do from where they are with 5,000, 10,000 cows with a contract to a processor. And bless their souls, they're having a hell of a time. Yeah. So we are completely different in it. And that's why my daughter says we do dairy different. Mm. Majorly, so different you can't even recognize the two. Yeah. Hmm. I love that. So, yeah.
So the you guys were, when you were with Organic Valley,
Correct.
You were producing milk for
pasteurization,
but you deviated.
Completely separated from that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think that the reason you were able to do that is just because it was early on, or because you really just I believed in it and had this combination of your upbringing and critical thinking.
All of it. Plus the magic of a consumer comes to you and thanks you and literally holds you in their arms crying because of what you did for their kids and pays you well. You get socioeconomic reinforcement for what you're doing. Yeah. Socioeconomic. The guy on the pasteurized side never sees any customers. Yeah. He's alone, back 40 by himself, and doesn't get paid for nothing. Negative socioeconomic relationships where I have very positive on both sides. So completely different world for where I am being invited down here to talk to some awesome physical therapy people versus the guy on the farm wondering how the heck he's going to cover his bills next week. Yeah. And how we get cheaper people to do the work because they just throw the machine on as fast as you can. So it's really a different world.
Yeah.
And I love the world I'm in because the farmers that join us also enjoy that beautiful socioeconomic. It's literally some of the dairymen we've had never had the privilege of connecting to people, and once they do, they can't believe it. It's this: the money is great, but the people, oh my God, it gives you purpose. It makes you feel good, and the kids want to stay on the farm for the next generation. Yeah. They're not leaving a desperate situation; they're staying with, I want to serve humanity. This is awesome, and they find a challenge because the work they do actually results in high quality, low risk milk versus a paycheck that doesn't even pay the bills. So worlds apart in term, and that's the big thing is we want peace here. There's a place for pasteurized milk. Great, knock yourself out. Go do it. That's what you do. The pizza cheese is not going to be from raw milk dairies for the most part. It's just not going to be there. But we're going to be serving kids, and we're going to be serving people that really want to consume raw milk and butter and cream and cheese and the good fats with the bioactives in it as its own niche market as it grows. And so there's a place for both of us at the table of humanity, and we don't want a war. We want peace, and we want to serve people. Yeah. And so that's what we do.
So pasteurized dairy, they're subsidized pretty heavily,
No,
right?
they're not subsidized.
No. Okay.
No,
How do they get by?
they don't.
They don't. Okay.
We're losing a dairy a week earlier this year in
Wow.
California.
Okay.
Losing 5 dairies a day in America. A few years ago, we had hundreds of thousands of dairies in America. Now we have 22,000, dropping by 10% every year. So when you have a milk price, which is below cost of production, what you have is a theory in your mind, I need to produce more milk so I'm more efficient to lose less money.
Yeah.
That actually is what you should be doing. You should produce less milk to make the price come up because of the supply and demand curve.
Yeah.
You add in Trump's concept of tariffs, and everything gets worse bad because you just said, world, we're America first, and you don't matter anymore. And you put up all these tariff stuff. Now you have the export milk being stuck in the domestic. You just overproduced another 5%. So the exported milk that used to go out and feed the world, whatever, in the big dairy deal, we don't do that because we're local. We feed only local. But they're serving people around the world. That gets stuffed back to America. And so as a result, you're now overproducing before you were before. Okay. But there are programs that do subsidize they call them insurance policies where you pay $100 and then the government pays you 10,000 back, kind of a thing if certain costs or whatever. So there are subsidy programs per se through the USDA, but you have to participate in them. The dairies don't automatically get a check every month for being a dairy. You have to participate in some of these things. So there are some subsidies, but they're kind of interesting programs that come and go.
Yeah.
They're not always there.
Yeah.
So being a conventional dairyman right now is a really tough place to be.
Yeah,
we have a lot of friends that are hanging it up.
Yeah.
Really tough.
Well, let's talk safety.
Sure.
That's the biggest question we get from people.
Great question.
They ask like, is it safe? Why would I do this?
Well, I think those are two separate questions: safety and why. Let's talk safety first.
Great. Divide those up.
And then why? If it is safe, like why? So, from a safety standpoint, you talked about the 18th century solution to an 18th century problem. Why do you feel that raw dairy can no longer be a problem today?
It can be a problem today.
Yeah.
Raw dairy can be a big problem. It all has to do with how you manage the cow, how you manage the milk. If you do it, especially where you have an immune system, which is the gut microbiome, 80% immune system, packed filled with preservatives and antibiotics, you have a weakened immune system. You don't have diversity of bacteria, good food to eat it in the gut.
This is the standard American because of
person.
Their diet and lifestyle.
The people you see all day long coming through your thing that says, I have digestive issues, I have inflammation, I've got chronic problems, I've got joint problems, I've got allergies. Their gut's probably screwed up too.
Yeah.
So when you have raw milk, that's a very amorphous gray subject. You have to divide it up and look at it. 12,000 years ago, or maybe even a little bit longer, was first discovered that mankind was starving all the time, trying to hunt, fish, and farm and gather to just eat today, could easily get by with a cow, goat, sheep, horse, camel, reindeer, donkey, water buffalo, with some grass and some sunshine. Wow, we got milk now. And that milk, when it gets old, it's made into cheese and butter and cream and all these things and kefir. And so mankind that had mammals under domestication really thrived, did really, really well. It happened across Northern Africa, it happened in Asia, it happened all through Northern Europe. So that was kind of interesting too, 12,000 years ago, where mankind started to domesticate these wild animals and bring them in and feed them and not starve anymore.
Yeah.
And so cows were a sign of wealth, goats, sheep, horses, because in fact, Wall Street was literally the stock market as a result of the stock being so valuable.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Stock, livestock.
Yeah.
But time, the Romans, Jesus Christ, I mean, all that stuff was all milk and honey, was all raw. The Romans, the Dark Ages, cows, all the way through that entire thing. Come Christopher Columbus coming to America, England had lots of cows. Russia had cows. Northern Europe had cows. But they brought them to America. The Pilgrims all died or went back to Europe before the arrival of the first cows. They didn't do so well with the Indians. The Indians didn't have cows, but the Indians ate organ meat and did other stuff. But it was very interesting how the Indians had a little different diet situation than the Pilgrims, who were kind of living on their dairy. Well, we're talking about 1500s here, 1400s, 1500s. Well, Jamestown, you had a cow and a musket, or you died.
Yeah.
You literally, that's Jamestown, the 1600s. So cows are coming, people were living, everybody had a cow or a neighbor with a cow. Cows were everywhere in America. Everybody had a cow next to them, or they had a cow themselves. It was a way to make money. It was a way to eat. It was a way to thrive. And if you got really hungry, you'd kill the cow, or the cow's calf, and you had beef. So it was very much a part of America, and you never saw a covered wagon coming across America without a cow or two behind to eat or to drink milk or to make products. So very much part of the origin of America. Come early to mid 1800s, people started making bigger cities. People moving to the city, aggregating in the city. Well, people wanted their milk in the city. Well, they did. They brought their cows to the city. Well, 1812, there was a whole blockade against Jamaica, and you couldn't get your rum. And so we had an overproduction of wheat and grains and all that kind of stuff. And we also had a lot of rum production being done in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, all of the United States, in the bigger cities in the East Coast to make rum. Well, they had a byproduct called distiller's grains. And so these cows are being brought into the city, no clean water, being fed distiller's grains.
Which are dirty?
They're not grass. They're not forage.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're basically alcohol byproduct.
Okay.
Wow.
They're drunk cows.
Yeah.
That was bad news, right?
Yeah.
So you got these drunk cows, and there's thousands of them in one place. And the people getting off the ship on Ellis Island were not the clean and the healthy. They were tuberculosis and minimum wage milking cows. And just imagine for a second, this is the dark era for raw milk. Mm-hmm. Tuberculosis, typhoid fever, no chilling of the milk being put into a dirty bucket. We're talking about 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, being fed distiller's grains, filthy conditions, no clean anything. And if it got cold in the morning, the milker put their foot in the milk.
That's
Put their feet in the milk, keep them warm.
They don't do that at raw farms.
No, I don't know. They couldn't if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, that's the kind of filthy conditions during that period of time for about 60, 70 years in the 1800s. Well, that killed 50% of the kids in the summer times that drank it in some of the cities. Disgusting. Whenever you have something like that happen, there's always an opportunity to do something better, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't take the cows back out to the pastures out in the countryside and clean up their act. What they did was Strauss in 1893 brought the parboiler in from France, where they were cooking things. Pasteur was cooking things. The beer and wine industry was cooking things. And what do you know? Overnight, a lot of people died because they cooked this filthy milk. And what do you know? You had this parboiler thing was like heralded as the greatest piece of science that ever existed, was solution to this filth. So a lot of money was made on dirty milk that was rendered safe. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution for dairy, was because any milk coming from anywhere could be excused. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have today. So another guy by the name of Coit, Dr. Coit, came about the same time, 1893, and he was a physician, he was a pediatrician, and he's watching kids die. It was horrible. He said, but I know children thrive on milk. Breast milk is raw milk. Yeah. They need to have clean milk. So he started what's called the Certified Raw Milk Movement, or the American Association of Medical Milk Commissions, the AAMMC, in 1993. And he certified dairies. There were thousands of dairies across America and Europe that were producing certified milk. And that was milk that was out on pastures in sunshine, clean water. And that milk was brought into the cities on railroads. And actually, people thrived on it. It had a short shelf life of maybe 10 days max. So you had these diversions in 1893. One was...
Did you say 1893 or 19?
1893.
18, okay, so...
To 130 years ago, 140 years ago. Dr. Coit, Strauss. And from them, there's always been a war between those two sides, because one wanted to capitalize on the marketplace and cheap milk and branding, and the other one was all about consumers and farmers. So that, and they kind of lived semi-harmoniously for 50, 60 years until 1940s, when America was near bankruptcy, just dropped 2 nuclear bombs and the world was on fire and we were trying to repair ourselves. And remember, in 1943, we thought smoking was good for your lungs and DDT was good for your skin. That's 1940, not a good place. It was serious. Yeah. That's what they thought. Yeah. It was like crazy. So they weren't really thinking about pasteurization being bad for you. They were just thinking, it's safe, great, thrive, wonderful, consume, long shelf life, cheap food. We needed cheap food because World War II. So raw milk started to die off with the commercialization of pasteurization because raw milk was expensive. And people did not have in their mind, except for people like Adele Davis and some others that were really into nutrition at that time, we're really talking about the gut and benefits of raw milk. There were some people, but it was very much a quiet niche. So what was the last dairy to be certified by the AAMMC? Altadena. They were the first ones. California law has a lot of certified raw milk laws. In fact, we're under some of those laws now with some of the products we make, but we're actually gone beyond that. There's some new code now that actually will be operating the last 25 years. So that's kind of the history of why raw milk is regarded to being so filthy, because it was and it is under certain standards.
Yeah.
And everybody should deeply respect that. I don't have a fight with the FDA on that. Yeah. I have a problem with the fact that they're not acknowledging the fact that it can be done cleanly and safely with modern technology, clean water, and clean udders and healthy cows in right conditions. Not cheap, but I tell you what, it's sustainable and people love it and it's great for the gut microbiome. What is the first food of life?
Breast milk.
A baby is born, birth canal, baby to breast, colostrum, and raw milk. Mm-hmm. It builds an immune system and a gut microbiome that did not exist before birth. Mm-hmm. It's got the pearls of wisdom of a, pick your number, 200, 300, 500,000 years of evolutionary pressures, generation by generation, to have the optimal food to protect a baby at birth. Blueprints of life, guys. This is powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. Destroyed by heat. So your second question, and you could frame it about why really keys in here. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is we do it differently. Mm-hmm. And that's how we can do the why.
Mm. So safety-wise, one more kind of clarifying question. And I don't know if this is true, but I tell people this. Say something like raw farms, other than those very first early incidents when you said you guys weren't doing it right.
We're doing it not as good as we're doing it now because we didn't know.
You didn't know.
And pioneers don't get any help.
Right.
They don't get any help at all.
Yeah.
Everybody makes fun of a pioneer. Look at what happened to them. And you're out by yourself going, I need to do it better. Help me. Nope, you're all by yourself. You're stupid. Yeah.
But you guys have had very, very few recalls or issues over the years. And I think all of them voluntary things.
There have been 8 over 26 years. 26 years. However, 5 of those were not associated with illness.
Okay.
There were 3 associated with illness. And there was a couple of E. coli way back when. There was a salmonella 3 years ago. Salmonella was interesting because all the tests were negative from the state of California. It took us intensive testing to find it. And that's why we started our own PCR lab so we could do more testing because we didn't want it faster and get by. And it's very interesting because when salmonella can come from inside of a perfectly clean udder, it's not about cleaning the udder. It's more than that. It's cleaning the udder, yes, but it's also how healthy is that cow and do you know what's going on inside of that cow? And that's where we really shine now. But yes, you sharpen your knife on recovery from being hurt. Yeah. So we didn't give up. We said, nope, stand up. What did we learn? Let's go to school. We're pioneers. And I'm sure there's more lessons to be learned than we already have. I mean, it's perpetual learning. Yeah. But Blaine and I just got back from Aarhus, Denmark. We're at the International Milk Genomics Consortium. 14th time we've been at this conference all around the world. Sydney, Australia, Aarhus 3 times, Quebec, Canada, UC Davis. And we see the same faces over and over. The International Milk Genomics people, Dr. Bruce German, and all those great, great mentors that we have. They love raw milk, but they can't speak of it. Yeah. Because the grant money they have says, figure it out on pasteurization. Figure it out here or there. It's the processors that are trying to do it. It's not the farmer. Mm-hmm. Although the farmers pay for it through checkoff dollars coming from their dairy milk check, I'm the only farmer in the room. These other farmers that are not doing well, they're not in the room. There. Because how could they apply the science? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't matter because it's all going to get cooked. And the repeated thing we hear all the time in all the scientific stuff is the bioactives found in raw milk, breast milk, are fantastic for health. Mm. And there's just a litany of all the fantastic. Less asthma, less allergies, less inflammation, all kinds of things that happen from these wonderful bioactives that are destroyed in pasteurization. Mm. So I think that kind of gives you a context.
Yeah. Tell me about how raw milk in terms of safety compares to, like deli meat, things like that. Because I think that people think there's probably a lot of other foods that folks eat that are probably even more dangerous from a bacterial standpoint.
Raw milk is one of the least dangerous foods. Yeah. The least. Okay. According to the CDC, water has killed 2 people. Raw milk out of state. Nobody's died in California from raw milk in the last 40 years.
Are these people that did like those radio contests where they drank too much water?
No, it was pathogens.
Pathogens in the water. Okay.
But what I'm getting at here is leafy greens.
Yep.
A huge killer every year. Lots of vegetables and stuff. Oysters, 30, 40 a year. You look at your data. Some years 10, some years 40 for oysters. Vibrio. You look at pasteurized milk, 82 deaths in the last 45 years. Pasteurized milk, mostly listeria. Remember these bioactives we talked about?
Yeah.
These bioactives are antivirus and antibacterial. It doesn't kill all bacteria, but does a good job of keeping them from having a rush to really grow fast. They will grow. Some will actually die off. Some will grow fast. That's why raw milk safety systems can be overwhelmed. But the bottom line is pasteurized milk, 82 people have died for pasteurized dairy products because when you pasteurize it, these bioactives are now denatured, and any listeria that gets in after the pasteurizer runs without competition and without bioactives or the flora to help suppress it. So
I think people too are very afraid of risk in general, and we have this risk averse society where we think, oh, if there's any risk, I'm just going to avoid it completely. It's like, well, you can't. You can't avoid risk unless you're not going to eat food or not going to go
let's
outside.
Let's talk about risk. Acute risk versus chronic risk.
Yeah.
As we address acute risk, we welcome chronic risk.
Right.
And that's a whole definition of safety that I really challenge.
Yeah. I really like that distinction between acute and chronic, because
sick today versus die over 20 years.
Yep.
Or 10 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because chronic inflammation and the gut microbiome drive longevity, drive your health. Yes, being in the ICU with renal failure, with hemolytic uremic syndrome, yeah, I get it. It could kill you. I totally agree. That's acute risk. The odds of that are extremely low, especially with our products that are tested down to 50 logs with a PCR lab on farm.
Yeah.
I challenge, I don't know how it would possibly happen. I really don't. The potential is extremely low. Leafy greens, pasteurized dairy products, even lowly little water, peaches, apples. No food is risk-free, but you must eat. The problem is, do you eat sterilized foods? That actually increases your chronic risk for chronic inflammation because highly processed, sterilized foods really don't help your gut microbiome. You need a diversity of bacteria in your gut. A diversity means different kinds of bacteria, not just one. Not just 3 kinds of yogurt. We're talking about hundreds of different kinds of bacteria and the food that feeds it. That's what deals with chronic disease and inflammation. Raw milk's got that. Diversity of bacteria at low levels and the food to feed it.
Love it. Cool. Well,
let's talk
about the benefits.
Okay.
The fun stuff. So we talked about safety and efficacy of raw dairy, but let's talk about why. Why would somebody want to drink raw milk? You've touched on a bunch of this already, which
but let's
has been
talk
awesome.
about it.
Yeah.
We grew slowly with the Western A price people and this and that from 1999 to 2019. We grew slowly. A little bit. Everybody loved it. It was all good. What happened in March of 2020? COVID hits. The Great Awakening happens. This was the stress test for America. What's the truth of what's going on?
Yeah.
What did you do to develop and create your gut microbiome so you could survive this stress of a virus that was foreign? So people started Googling, what's the best food to enhance your gut microbiome, which is 80% of your immune system? And raw milk pops up like crazy. Breastfeeding pops up. What did CDC tell moms to do when they were COVID hot, when they had COVID and they had a baby? Continue to breastfeed the baby. It will protect the baby through antibodies and the bioactives. This was preaching from the CDC, and they were absolutely right. NIH was saying this. Studies said this. Breast milk is really well understood because it's been encouraged and supported. But breast milk is raw milk from a mammal, qualitatively almost identical to cows, quantitatively different. There's different levels of fat and butter, fat and cream and stuff like that, proteins, but they're qualitatively very similar, very similar. So COVID was a big wake up in the market because when the big dairies had to shift from no more schools getting the milk because they had to shut the schools down, right? And no more restaurants. Now it's all going to the stores. They were dumping milk in the lagoons because they couldn't shift gears for palletization, labeling, capping for different products. So they had the milk coming in, they had to dump it. We had the milk coming in. We said, what did the market want? You're out of milk? Done. We stopped making cheese. We started bottling milk. We had shelves all to ourselves in some stores where they had no pasteurized dairy product for weeks on end. And so people call up and said, I just bought this milk. I don't know what raw milk is. It tastes delicious, but what is it? It's so damn expensive. COVID really caused a lot of money. We had people buying milk left and right because it's the only thing they had. So it was an explosive growth period for 2 reasons. One, it was the only product available in some stores. The other thing was, it's a fantastic gut microbiome friendly food, which enhances your immune system status with antivirus bioactives, some very powerful ones. So we grew very, I went to 28% per year for 3 years in a row and still having a little bit of that growth now. So COVID was a big wake-up call. And the why was, what can I do personally to boost my immune system and be healthier? Acknowledgement that I can be responsible without going and get a COVID shot. COVID shot, you can talk all day long about, maybe it helped people, maybe it didn't. I don't know. Don't talk about that. What can you do personally that will make you healthier to protect yourself from assaults that come? I think one of the most profound things that's exciting is the European studies, the Parsival study, the Gabriella study, big studies done, 50,000 children over 10 years. The children that drank raw milk all the time didn't get the flu, or if they did, it was very short-lived and fast. Didn't get the cold. Those are viruses. But they didn't get vaccinated. So what did they get? They got a dynamic therapy that was adapted for every year. That cow that they were drinking the milk from, her bioactives were ready to go for whatever was coming, not that particular strain that the vaccination would maybe deal with. We're talking about all strains. So it allowed for the adaptive, resilient immune system of the gut microbiome in the children that drank raw milk. The very profound finding that these children have fewer fevers, fewer colds, and fewer flu from drinking raw milk every year. And they don't get the vaccination every year, which we know is only maybe 20 to 30% effective on a good time because they haven't figured out which one it is, and they always miss it because it was last year's they're based on. Well, raw milk is based on future, not last. So powerful reasons why people, asthma, 12 kids a day. Talk about risk. 12 kids a day die from asthma in America. Dead. Wow. Let's put that in the risk category. Yeah. Kids that drink raw milk, their asthma goes away. It gets much better. They're not an EpiPen anymore. So
that's pretty cool.
Let's talk about modern medicine ignoring some really very important fundamental genomics of something given to us by blueprints of nature that we're ignoring now because it's inconvenient because big dairy is hurting and doesn't want to have competition in the marketplace. Throw all that away. Let's just look at what's good for people and figure it out.
Yeah. I love it. Tell us more about, you say, I always pronounce it kefir, but kefir.
You can do it either way.
Okay. So I always tell my kids, like, that's, I think we've seen a marked difference between them and like some of the kids they go to school with, just them drinking that on a regular basis. And like, they don't get sick that often. Or if they do, it's like pretty minimal. Like there's not anything major. Like we know people, it's like their kids are sick every other week or every couple weeks. They're like, oh, my kid's in daycare and they get sick for 1 week and then they're good for a week and then they get sick again. So we personally have, experienced that firsthand, but tell us a little bit more about kefir and why that's so good, like probiotic wise. What are some of the benefits and even how you make it like from the raw milk?
The medical archaeologists that study the history of milk in mankind basically think that most the primitive milk was not raw milk. It was kefir that was consumed. Yeah. Because why? The bucket wasn't clean. Yeah. It was the mother culture from last week, and it was never chilled. Mm-hmm. So you had fresh milk for the first few hours, and then it was kefir the next day. So anybody that had milk had kefir or a form of kefir. Yeah. And so it has a long shelf life. And when it gets really clotted, you can put it through a cheesecloth and grab the curd out of it, and the whey you could use for your vegetables and fermentation. And the curd, you can add a little salt to it, mix it together, and you make cheese, farmer's cheese. So kefir was probably consumed more broadly than raw milk. If you were the farmer and you had fresh that morning, yeah, you probably did. But it was in a dirty container, and your neighbor or that evening, it was more like kefir. Remember, at body temperature, the bacteria growth it doubles every 20 minutes. Okay. So you're talking about low levels of bacteria coming out of the cow, beneficial, good diversity of bacteria, Pseudomonas, all kinds of coliforms and all kinds of good stuff, lactobacillus bacteria. They're going to double every 20 minutes. Okay. That becomes astronomical, millions in a 24-hour period. Yeah. So you make kefir. Yeah. So if you didn't chill their milk, you probably had kefir. So think about it. This is Dr. Annette Jewett talking from UCLA, who's a cancer expert. She's a big raw milk researcher. She's fed more rats than you'll ever count. But she said this years ago to me, that she was one of my big mentors back in 2008, 9, and 10. She said, 2 major things to build your immune system: a diversity of good bacteria, and even some shady characters are okay because they stretch your bacteria, they stretch your experience, so you have more antibodies, right? Pathogens probably not so great, but diversity of all kinds of bacteria and the food that feeds it. Mm-hmm. Those two together, that's what makes your gut microbiome really resilient and really strong and builds you antibodies for a diversity of threats. Yeah. So that's brilliant because it's so true. We've seen that, and kefir provides that beautiful gift of protection because diversity of bacteria, hundreds of different kinds of bacteria at extremely high levels, over 10 million per milliliter. Yeah. So you're talking about serious probiotic with the lactose and galactose with it to feed it. So you have all kinds of...
That's what needs to come with it to feed it part?
Well, the food to feed it. Because you let's say you pop a couple of probiotic pills. Oh, great. You get in your gut and they starve. What do we eat? They're starving to death. You can always hear them crying, oh my God, I'm starving down here. Because there's no food. If the food has preservatives, it kills bacteria. Antibiotics kill bacteria. Sterilized foods don't help. There's some food down there. If you're eating okay, you got some carbohydrates and stuff, you're going to do okay. But the bottom line is you starve them. You need to feed them. And you feed them with whole food. Whole food. Whole foods feed bacteria. Highly processed foods that are denatured, and especially with antibiotics and preservatives, those are key things. If you antibiotic preservatives, it kills off the diversity, and then you start really having problems. So diversity of bacteria and the food that feeds them. And by the way, galactose and lactose are low glycemic index. Glucose is up around 100. These are down at 40 to 20. So you're talking really low, which is great for athletes because it doesn't give this sugar rush, and the fats and the proteins, which are functional, because the enzymes are still there, actually moderate any kind of surges in glycemic rush. That was one of the big things we picked up at the IMGC this year in Aarhus. So great recovery for athletes, people working out.
I love it. So what's your process for making the kefir?
Bring the milk in, test it.
Okay. It
goes into a big old 3,000 gallon vat.
Okay.
And we bring the temperature up to about 75 degrees.
Okay.
We add in a bunch of probiotic bacteria, diversity of them, on top of what's already there. Yeah. And then you grow it for about a day and a half.
Okay.
And then after that, it's agitated a little bit and you put it in the bottle and that's it.
I love it. That's awesome.
That's it. It's never been heated above 75 degrees.
Okay.
So there's a lot of fake raw cheeses, for instance, that have been heated to 145 degrees, which is effective pasteurization. But because thermalization, which is the temperature heating up below pasteurization, or even pasteurization, if you don't have a pasteurizer's license, you have not pasteurized. Even though in the vat, the cheese vat, when you put the milk in there, you've heated it up to whatever temperature. It's made from raw milk.
Okay.
But it's not a raw milk cheese. But you could call it a raw milk cheese, and that's a fraud because the bioactives are dead. So we have a truly raw cheese, which has never been taken above body temperature. That it's taken to right at 99 to 100 degrees, and that way the bacteria propagate really well, and you make a great cheese. But the bioactives are all there.
Okay.
They're not destroyed. Where these fake raw cheeses, there's a bunch of them out there because raw cheeses sell well. They've been aged 60 days, but they've been thermalized. Canada actually has a law about thermalization. We do not. You either pasteurize or raw. There's a lot of slack in what's raw. And we actually come out and say we have a truly raw. That's why our cheeses are kind of unique.
Yeah. What's your favorite kefir flavor?
Lemon.
Lemon.
Me too.
Lemon's really good.
It's so good.
Lemon's good. The vanilla's good too, but the lemon's special.
Yeah, I agree.
And you put it in a blender and add all the good stuff you wanted, the bananas and berries and raw egg, and oh my God, that's breakfast. It's done. And it's fast.
I say it's
and
like it tastes like dessert.
It's dessert.
When you drink it, I'm like, this is like a treat every time.
Yeah.
I love it.
And kids, think about it. The gut microbiome, serotonin, dopamine connection to the brain, the gut-brain connection.
Yeah.
And the ability for them to settle down and focus and learn in school instead of being just scattered with sugar, and ADD running around the room and not behaving or whatever. Kids that have good fat in their gut and have the right carbs and everything going right, they settle down and they learn, and they're obedient, and they're listening, and they're focused, and they're good athletes, and they're just working, they're doing, and they don't get sick. Or if they do, it's really quick. They get over it in a day. And they built antibodies to whatever came towards them, and they're protected. And they did that without antibiotics. Now, I'm not an anti-antibiotic guy. Antibiotics save lives.
Sure.
They're very important. They save hearing with ears. I get it. But once you've had an antibiotic, you better be on the recovery mode with kefir and other things to build back what they killed off, or else you're going to be on that roller coaster again real quick.
Yep.
Yeah. So I embrace, I'm a paramedic, and it saves lives. But be careful. The backside of that is you can actually get into a situation where sepsis and die with antibiotic-resistant bacteria. A critical thing. I mean, I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
In the ICU, when you have C. diff, Clostridium C. difficile, and they bring the priest in to give you the last rites because you're going to die in 24 hours because you've got full-blown everything with C. diff, and they've used their last antibiotic on you, what's considered the most acute, most decisive therapy that's now banned by the FDA?
I mean, since you're the one asking the question, it's got to be something raw milk.
No, it's not.
No. A fecal transplant?
Yes. Good job, Doc. Well done. He's been around a little bit. That's exactly right. 92% recovery.
Wow.
From something that could not be fixed with the most advanced antibiotic.
It's so interesting.
Isn't that amazing?
You're having a poop problem, you put in someone else's poop.
Yeah. You find a nurse that eats really, really well, probably drinks raw milk, and you get some of their poop, put it down.
You know one?
And there's some bloods that actually advertise for it. You flush the lower gut, And 90% of the time, these people recover in a day or two. Wow. That tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The gut bacteria really matter. And without them, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So let's reorient ourselves about fearing bacteria versus embracing the good ones and feeding the good ones.
Yeah.
And they'll take care of the bad ones.
We've learned a lot recently we've learned a lot from you about the gut-brain axis. I've also been learning about the bone-brain axis.
And the gut-lung.
Gut-lung. I've not heard about that.
Got everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got everything. They're just beginning to link, okay, gut-brain, okay, good. Gut-lung, okay, good. Gut-bone for sure. The calcium, the whole depository with the accountant.
Yeah.
You know, you get some minerals back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Calcium and bone-wise, is there a big difference between raw and pasteurized?
100%.
100%. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
especially in full-fat raw.
Why is that?
The fat globule membrane, and the fat globule is considered an immune cell now by scientists because it carries 60% of the bioactives found in raw milk. mRNAs, alkaline phosphatase, all these things. And the membrane itself is considered to be a dietary fiber filled with all kinds of butyrates that actually are fantastic for the lower gut. And they feed the Akkermansia bacteria, which make the mucosal lining, which is missing or thin in America, which really screws up the gut because that's a protective insulation. It keeps things from going directly to the tissues and the villi. So the Akkermansia bacteria is a best friend. And those butyrates found in the butterfat globule feed them.
So awesome.
I mean, this is great stuff.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, this is science, guys. This is not anti-science. This is the best of science. And science, which is having a hard time translating into action because it's in conflict with status quo.
That's so true.
That is worth repeating.
Yeah.
Very important. The science we have at IMGC and these are talking about this great stuff, but translating into action is in conflict with what's been promoted for 100 years. So we are actually having a very hard time evolving into following the information that's available to make us better because it's in conflict with status quo and who makes money.
I mean, I think that's like the whole food system.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like it's all like way behind what the science and research shows.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because it's so ingrained. And
It wasn't
that's, like, where
way
the money
behind.
is.
That's
Yeah.
WHEY, which is fantastic. We love our way.
Yeah.
Just joking. It's true.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
lagged big time.
Yeah. And people just don't know. And so I love that you're like excited to educate people because I think that's the first step is like if someone doesn't know, how can they take action
How
on
would
it?
they ever know?
How would they ever know?
They walk by,
You know?
they tell jokes about that $18 a gallon milk. It's like, these guys are fools. They're stupid. They're following some farmer who's really a con man. He is the ultimate snake oil salesman. Well, take that home to your kids. Do the experiment on your kids and watch them thrive over time.
Yeah.
And that is a lifelong gift that you give to those children, which are suffering a lot in the sugar-rich environments, low-fiber, sugar-rich environments that they're in. And they go to school and they can't learn. And that makes a generation of people that didn't learn and they got ADD and all kinds of stuff. And who knows what kind of kids they're going to have. So we really need to take responsibility for having children and having healthy children and growing children.
Yeah.
And not every stage of life too. But I mean, children is super important because that's formative.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Can we hit you with some rapid fire questions?
Hit me.
All right.
Oh, I have one. What would you say to someone who's transitioning from breastfeeding? So she's like, I'm done breastfeeding for whatever reason. Do they just start drinking raw milk?
The baby or the mom?
The baby.
Okay.
Well, hopefully the mom's drinking raw milk.
No,
the whole
let's
time.
back up.
Yeah.
Go ahead with
I was
finish your
going to say,
rapid
so
fire.
the baby, so say they're about a year, and do they just start drinking raw milk instead of breast milk? Or like what would be the age that you would recommend?
I'll step back one step from that and I'll give my daughter credit for raw milk in, raw milk out. Breastfeeding moms will thrive if they don't have enough milk production themselves by drinking a bunch of raw milk themselves. For some reason, they engorge quickly. My daughter did that with like 24 hours, lots of milk.
Yeah.
Her friends all did it, lots of milk. So if you want to extend your ability to breastfeed and have more milk easily, if you're pumping whatever, drink more raw milk yourself. Something going on with all the elements needed for your own production, maybe some hormones involved, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's going to produce it. So that's it.
Well, it probably also has all these nutrients that moms are lacking and they don't have time to eat as much and all that. And they're producing so much milk that it's like they're not getting the nutrients they need.
Exactly.
So that just is like a quick way to
helps.
ensure that they're getting what they need.
Now, what happens when mom says, okay, you're done? And the baby goes, maybe you're done. Somebody rejects somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody cries. Somebody doesn't want somebody. There's no transition problem.
Okay.
I would do it slowly, like over a day or two. But I tell you what, kids suck on it and go to town. They love raw milk. Watch out where you get their milk from. You do not want to get it from the CAFO dairy down the street. You want to get it from a place that does testing and knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Raw milk done irresponsibly can make people sick. Now, a breastfed child is fairly resilient because mom's raw milk
because they've had a bunch of bacteria.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mom's breast is not sterile. It's 700 different kinds of bacteria, 2,500 different kinds of proteins. Mom's a fantastic place to actually start off in raw milk. That's where it should be.
Yeah.
In fact, the USDA and their dietary guidelines talk about it. It's the logo at the top left-hand corner. That whole entire thing is breastfeed your babies. There's no dissent there. Everybody agrees.
Yeah.
So yes, breastfeed as long as possible. Nourish yourself to be able to be a good mom for your baby.
Yeah.
But then when that's done, the transition is like nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And I would start with put some in the bottle, a little bit, watch the kid for a little while, breastfeed some more, watch them, and you basically do both, and then cut them off, and they're sucking on the bottle.
Yeah. I love it.
Kids thrive on it.
I have experienced this personally where I will have digestive issues with whey protein and just conventional dairy in general. I've found that if I drink raw dairy along with whey protein or a conventional dairy product, I digest better. Is that just my subjective experience, or is that a thing that you've noticed?
Very, very objective. Whey proteins sold in America all have to be pasteurized. They're denatured proteins. Raw whey is illegal in America, except when consumed through raw milk. So you can make your own if you wanted to, clabber some cheese and the whey that comes off of it, that would be raw whey protein. I think that's one of the biggest disasters that ever happened because raw whey protein is a fantastic protein for all kinds of purposes. And it also stabilizes the mast cell, which is part of the allergy response. They keep histamines from going crazy, and it's really, really good for kids with asthma. So raw whey protein is not, it's a label, it's not raw whey. It is whey that's been pasteurized. Okay. And so it's lost its protein functionality. They're no longer functional proteins. Remember, these proteins have enzymes with them. Proteins have proteases. Well, you have the whey protein doesn't have its protease. So it sits down there going, okay, I need a partner to help me digest. And you don't. There's all kinds of conflict when you have partial food being consumed versus a whole.
But if you consume raw with
that will
conventional whey protein, okay.
Because you have the functional enzyme that comes from the raw side.
Missing.
That's why I'm always preaching peace to these pasteurized guys. Hey, you're going to do a whole lot better if you have a partner over here with raw that helps out the deficiency you have in your pasteurized.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to sell a whole lot more pasteurized ice cream if people are drinking raw milk.
Yeah.
I can't make pasteurized ice cream because it's illegal, because it's a multi-ingredient product. So there's a real peace to be made there. Any more questions? Any more rapid fires?
Yeah. This is great. Okay, what do you think of gentle pasteurization?
It's like gentle murder. Ever partially killed somebody? I'm not sure.
So you wouldn't say that that's better than just full blown?
In sarcasm, it's funny, but let's talk about it a little bit. At 149 degrees in 30 minutes, you've effectively denatured 5 logs of bacteria. 5 logs is a lot.
Okay.
It's 10 to the 5th. So that's a whole lot of destruction that's happened, and you've eliminated virtually all of the alkaline phosphatases, which is a very anti-inflammatory enzyme. Your lactoferrin's no longer effective, and you basically kill everything. And so that's the minimum. So when you say gently, that's like the low and slow thing. Now, give a little bit of credit to low and slow here. Yeah, you've done that, but you haven't done it to the extreme. So you've done the annihilation, okay, but you haven't gone HTST at 185 degrees in 5 seconds or 3 seconds or 15, 20 seconds. You haven't gone 282 degrees with injection of culinary steam for ultra pasteurization, which is sterile, which is really bad news. Yeah. So of all the ranges of the denatured, the low and slow would be the better because it's had less intense pasteurization. However, you've still lost a lot. So all sarcasm aside, low and slow would be better than the higher temperatures. And the higher you go, the more shelf life you get, but the more denatured they are. So low and slow, yes, of the choices of nicely killing, would be a better one. Yeah.
Slow murder.
Slow murder.
Slow murder. That's funny.
By the way, another thing with that,
yeah,
there's very few people doing low and slow now because it's not working.
Not working.
They can't kill the pathogens that are becoming heat resistant.
Okay.
Because they test it, go, oh my God, there's bacteria that are growing and they survive. The first forms of life on Earth were bacteria. The archaea bacteria is still in our gut today. That bacteria adapts, overcomes. It doesn't want to die. It wants to continue. They swap genetics. They do all kinds of stuff to just, the Genome Project tells us. They want to survive. They want to adapt. They'll be here, but when we're gone, they'll eat us. They'll be picking on our bones. But the bottom line is, when heat is just 149 degrees in 29, 30 minutes, some of these bacteria are actually becoming heat resistant. And they're surviving it. And they're going, oh, do it twice. Well, that's not going to work. I can't heat it twice. So HTST, high temperature short time, where you do, and they repeat, they 2 or 3 times, not just once, to make sure they've killed everything, because they're so weird. So concerned about making somebody sick. And I would agree, because look at the source of the milk. They're coming from all these dairies with very low standards and manure and everything else in there. So you're going to have to highly process to make it work. So low and slow, if you can get it it's probably going to come from a single operation that's doing low and slow, because it would be permitted across state lines because it's pasteurized. And we have to make clean milk going in, or fairly clean milk going in, because it's not going to work with heavily burdened milk that we see coming out of CAFOs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A little story there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And another question that I've gotten from people is, well, we're humans. Why should we be drinking cow's milk? This is more of just a dairy question in general.
We were starving humans 12,000 years ago. It's true. We were bright enough to observe something in nature going, you know what, that deer is sucking on that mom there, and deer is doing good, and that calf's, and we're hungry. We're going to kill that deer, and we're going to rob that milk. And I don't know what the caveman said and what grunt towns so they made, but I'm sure there was some crying babies and a hungry mom saying, you got to get some food. We're dying here. And that was happening in caves or wherever they were in Iran, or it was the Fertile Crescent area. And so those that would be able to get the aurochs, which are the early cows, and be able to capture that milk, actually had a competitive advantage, because they could milk that cow and, ooh, you want some milk too? Pay me for it. Trade me. Yeah. So they became wealthy, and actually everybody really did well with it. So it's a lack of understanding where your food comes from historically that brings the question to bear of, why would we drink milk? That's for calves. It is for calves, I agree. But for 12,000 years, mankind adopted a principle of getting these domesticated animals. It's delicious, and in raw form, it's really, really good for you. And you would only ask that question in the context of a full stomach and a store that has lots of food.
Yeah.
You take the store away and you take the stomach away, I need a freaking cow now.
Yeah.
Because you got hard. You ever watch Naked and Afraid?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. But...
I've seen an episode or two.
Okay. Those people all starved to death because they don't have a cow.
Yeah.
They would do just fine if they had a cow or a goat or sheep. They don't have anything. And they're just out there going, I got to find a fish or I'm going to die today. Yeah. So that's the kind of situation you could kind of put on 12,000 years ago, where man's making afraid. And they only make 20 days, maybe. The champions go 25 days, and they're like lose 35 pounds and look like hell when they get off. Yeah. So this was the answer to Naked and Afraid. Mm-hmm. And people don't have Naked and Afraid because they've got a store shelf. They got a store shelf full of food, and their stomach's full. So that's kind of my super answer to that question. You actually don't need a cow nowadays. No, you go to the store, do what you want. But if you honor and appreciate the history of man and understand the immune system and what needs to have a strong immune system, and not rely on an antibiotic in there and there, and be more independent, you think about a cow or a goat or a sheep or a horse or a camel or a reindeer or all those mammals we incorporate in our lives for so many years.
Because of the nutritional value.
Yeah. Nutritional, the wholeness of the food. The fact that babies only need raw milk for the first year of life. That's all they need. They don't even need raw water. Mom is all they need. So that's a pretty powerful message that it's a whole food.
Yeah. Very cool.
Any other rapid fire? I think I'm good.
Any more?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to have some hard ones. Come on, guys.
I think we gave you the hard ones. Yeah. No?
The harder the better, because the deeper the answers are. They're really cool. Oh, man. I tell you.
No, that's all my questions. This has been super informative.
There was a slide shown many years ago in Australia.
Okay.
Blaine, I think you were there. This is the International Milk Genomics Consortium meeting in Sydney, Australia. And the guys that were the big processors, Frontera, were giving the presentation and all these slides. And it had this slide of these milk. It showed the butterfat levels on the milks. And it was these slides of lots of butterfat over here and whole fat milk. And baby formula had no butterfat whatsoever. And the professors were all talking about how the babies really need the fat, because this is where this dietary fiber's at. This is where it carries all the bioactives and everything else. And the presenter said, but when the babies cry, they don't tell their parents that, so they don't know. That was really emotional to me.
Yeah.
That's the kind of foolhardy crap that's going on in our make money, because they took the fat off the milk to make a skim milk product for the baby who's crying and upset. They took the fat to make other profit products. They cheated the baby to make more money.
Yeah.
So I think we're on the right track here, guys. I think we're on the right side of history. And it's a matter of education and continuing to learn, continue to teach, and also watch the evidence. Mm-hmm. If it's true, there's evidence coming back.
Yeah.
If it wasn't true, evidence wouldn't come back. And what I am so excited about in life is the evidence comes back in troves.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Right. Wise words.
Yes.
From Mr. Mark. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me today. This is great.
Yeah. It was awesome. Thank you.
You bet.